Good morning, everybody. I'm going to put that link one more time in the chat. I know some people will pop in and out as we get going. So here we go. There's that link in the chat. And for those of you that don't know me, the name is Bond, Virginia Bond, Bond Lake James, Virginia Lake the State. And I work at NARIC as an ISS Integration of Technology Training Specialist, which basically means I just train in pretty much everything. Some of you know me as iReady support. I am also Ren support, but I'm also a Google trainer, which means I have level 1 and level 2 educator. Plus I have the training, which means I provide a lot of trainings within our model schools catalog. And I also do some private consulting on the side. So today's session is kind of the actual entire series has been kind of thought through because I see so many really bad things in Google Classroom, and I want to just help people clean it up. So this series in general, the cleanup series, is kind of the concept of a blue light special. If any of you are old enough for Kmart and remember the blue light specials, that's where this comes from. And it is just really some time. I think summer is a good time to kind of look through, be a little reflective about what we have, what we've done, and how to clean it up as we go. All right, so before we start, please just understand there may be some things I show you today that you may need to check through with your data privacy and security team, so your DPO within your district. I actually believe that I don't have anything in this session that adheres to that, but I always like to have that in here just in case there's a question, right? Just because I'm showing it, I can show a lot more things and maybe some other people can, but that's just because I have a little higher level of access. All right, so we're going to start off with the real basics. And I know this is simple, but it really does help level the playing field when we're talking about things within Google Classroom. So the gear, okay? This, my friends, is the gear. And I'm just going to kind of move them so you see what they are. Classroom cards. These are your classroom cards, okay? So they're the cards that are going to show up when we go to classroom.google.com. And that's important because some of the work that we need to do, we do there, not directly within Classroom. So it's important that we know where that is and how to get to it. For those of you that are just getting in, I'm putting the link to today's presentation in the chat. The next one is the ellipses. These little dots. Everybody has a little different name for them. Maybe the snowman, maybe the traffic light. You know, we're from the north. We call it the snowman. I find people from the city like to call it the traffic light. I mean, no concept of snow maybe. But they are actually called the ellipses, the vertical ellipses. So the dot. And if you know Mamma Mia, you get the reference to that dot. There's a little bit more in there, right? And then the last one is the hamburger, the 3 lines. So I'm actually going to go into a Google Classroom and we're going to look at all 3 of those or all of those pieces at once. So these are your cards, the place where your Google Classrooms all sit. And if I click on one Google Classroom to go into it, oh, excuse me, I'm going to come out of it. As soon as I told you to go into it, I want to call you to go out. Every card has a set of ellipses, okay? So they're up here in the corner, but the only place you can really see them, sorry, I had that a little small, is on the cards themselves. Then when I click on a classroom, I have my gear and over there is my hamburger, okay? So the 3 lines, some people call that the menu. It is called the main menu. Google will call it the hamburger, just so you know. I'm not making that up for you. I mean, I could be if you'd like me to, but I typically don't do that. Okay, and then we all know the waffle, right? Everybody has the waffle. Okay, I don't usually review that one because I feel like that's the one people are pretty comfortable with. All right, so kind of what are we going to look at today? What is my focus for today? So really, our learning objectives is you're going to look at the past, we're going to look at the present, and we're going to like go to the future. So we're going to take some time. We're going to reflect about what worked and what didn't work within our Google Classrooms. So like, what were we pretty successful with? What were we maybe not so successful with? And then we're going to clean up your classrooms. That's going to be the present. That would be like work for now. Clean up the classrooms that you already have. And then future, how can I improve my use for next year? So, and I know a lot of people are like, I'm not going to use it, right? I'm not going to use it. I just saw that smile, right? Okay. Oh, hell no, I don't want to use it, right? I've been there, done that, don't want it. But listen, I hate to see this. It may be smart to be prepared, right? And some districts have a policy that you have to have a Google Classroom. I honestly think it's not a terrible thing to have, right? Well, I am a tech teacher, so that makes sense that I would want to have that. But so just like, where were we, where are we, and where are we going? And I think that's, that's a good way to kind of look at this. So at the past, so our reflection question is, what worked and what didn't work? So I just want you to take a minute. Like, I want you to think through that. And I want you to think about what worked for you and what didn't work. Now, I don't want you to tell me that your kids couldn't do it, because we're not going to talk about that right now, right? So I'd like you to just take a second, or let's take 15 seconds, and I want you to jot down or type something into the chat about what worked or what didn't work for you in Google Classroom. Like, maybe it was like what your struggle was. Okay. What was one of your struggles within Google Classroom? While you guys are doing that, I'm going to do a quick review here. I'm doing attendance really quickly, making sure everybody's in. Good morning, Stephanie. No, you sneak in there, little girl. Just making sure I got everybody. Awesome. Oh, yes. Ooh, there you go. Awesome. What worked? Figured out how to organize topic. Oh, look at you. Emojis. And I didn't even bring that up, Morgan. Good job. I like that. That's awesome, right? When I make a mistake and how to fix it. Oh, listen, you and everybody else, that's okay. Being able to create schedules. I like that. Awesome. Oh, and listen, I have a little, Kelly Galo, when we get there, remind me to tell you, I have a gift for you today. I don't get to give many gifts in Google Classroom, but today I have one. So, and it's a nice one. I got to write it down because I will forget. Awesome. So, quite honestly, like, let's think about number one thing I want to think about. How did your students do navigating your classrooms? So that's why I said, right? Some do really good. But I also want you to think about your special ed population. Did they struggle with it, right? Some special ed students struggle with a Google Classroom because it changes every day, right? They like consistency. I think of my husband, who is definitely on the spectrum. If he had had a Google Classroom, he would have flipped out. I just reset up his new laptop this weekend, and he literally's been using this, like, the same laptop for 10 years. He wanted everything back in the same exact place. I'm like, oh, you're not a creature of habit at all, right? So some of our special ed kids are exactly the same way. So when things change all the time, they struggle with a little bit. Some of your auditory learners, they also struggled a little bit with our classrooms, right? They're like, it's just hard. This is a shock to people, but our high flyers struggle with a Google Classroom. You know why? Because we're not giving them all the answers. They like the answers, and they like school, and they do well in school, right? So, oh, I love some of these answers. You guys continue to use this chat. I love seeing that. That's awesome, right? Kids couldn't find their grades, right? Student view doesn't look like my point of view, right? It's a little different. And it's not organized, or the non-organized kids. No, it's organized. The non-organized kids. My son would have struggled with a Google Classroom because he literally can't fight his way out of a paper bag. I say that he's a registered nurse now. It's taken him a long time to get to that point. My daughter, on the other hand, she would have been all over this because she gets it. Her brain thinks like this. So just think about your kids and how different they may be. Okay, so as we think about that, I'm going to start with topics. So topics is a big one. So I'm actually going to, this is one of my Google Classrooms, and I'm going to go into my classwork because that's where topics sit. And you'll notice I have this handy dandy set of 4 topics, right? 4 basic topics. So what's a good classroom and what's not a good classroom? Okay, so this may be too many. I am going to tell you right now that these are actual Google Classrooms that I was a co-teacher in, right? And I finally looked at this teacher and I said, girl, you got too many topics. I can't follow where you are. And I looked at her, I said, we got to clean this up. And when she finally got to the maximum number of topics, and does anybody have a clue what that might be? Because there is one, right? It's 100. She got to it on day 100. And I said, you got to stop. You're killing me, right? You're killing me. You got too many. She's like, is it confusing? And I'm like, yeah, it is for me. So one of the things I like to say, you can have too many and you can have too few, right? There is a happy medium in the middle. So really, this is almost a pre-planning for the future. So think ahead, where am I going? So if you're in middle school, high school, think big, like resources, materials, daily assignments. You can read my list there. I don't have to go through that because I know you can all read. And elementary, think even a little bigger. So I've seen a lot of elementary teachers using it for all 4 subjects or all 5 subjects. So really just having one that says reading, math, because there's a trick. I can be on here, right? And I can use Control F. Everybody needs a good Control F in their life. And I can look for a resource doc and see what happens when I start to type. It starts to highlight the word that I'm looking for. So Control F is a great way to teach your students how to use Google Classroom because they can look for things very specifically while you can continue to use big topics. Another thing about topics is that everything that is homeless, these are considered homeless assignments, as in they don't have topics, stay at the top. And then the rest of them feed down into the bottom. So now let me teach you a couple fun little tricks. You can open them up. We know that. We can edit them and we can put a topic on them, right? I can just throw any topic I want on them, save it, good to go, right? Everybody knows that, right? That's a pretty easy way. You can also do this. You can just click and drag them over into the correct place you want them to be. I do kind of really like that. You can do either one of those, both work, whatever works best for you. All right, so you'll notice I have a little bit of a layover between middle schools, right? Sometimes you need to think big and sometimes you need to think more like an elementary teacher. It depends on the group you're working with. I think if your middle schoolers are like 5th and 6th graders and maybe even some 7th graders, you may need to think more along the elementary line. But in the high school, you definitely need to think big. I like to use topics. I always like to think of global studies. When I was in school, way back yonder in the pawpaw patch, right? It was a long time ago. I had to take a global studies test that was like 3 years worth of social studies. And I needed my social studies teacher to say to me, hey, Virginia, you need to go look at American history because or you need to go look at Egyptian. And I would have been like, okay. I would have been able to come into my Google Classroom, go over to the topics and click on that part and be able to pull up all the information that was in there. So it's a nice big way to think and to organize your structure. Okay, so this, by the way, I'm going to take that out, is one of the classes I also sit in. And this teacher, she is like spot on. I love some of the ideas that she has in here. Things like Now, first of all, she's a third grade teacher. This is a set of third grade teachers together, and she's probably one of the most organized third grade teachers I've ever seen. So I was like, girl, this is very good. I like the fact that they have technical help, right? They put that right into their classroom. So they actually made some documents for their third graders when they came in about ways to use certain things. But knowing that parents were going in here as well, they were also using that so parents could use that to assist their students. These two classrooms were a hybrid almost all year. They had 50% of their students out and 50% of their students in. So the two classrooms, one did all the in-person and one did all the remote. And what they did is that as the kids kind of linked over, they jumped them from classroom to classroom. They kind of merged the classes together. They did a really nice job. I just like some of the options she has in here. Okay, the next one. So how are you going to use your Google Classroom? Are you going to have one for the whole year? Or are you going to have two? Or are you going to have four? Or did you do this? And this is all based off of grades. So a lot of people are like, I don't like the fact that my grade book continues on and on forever, because what it does is it really gives me a full, and I see heads nodding, so I know this is like an issue, right? That grade book that changes continually, because then the grade that you're giving them isn't necessarily matching what they're giving. And I see that, right? So the real question is, do you sync, right? Do you sync? Not like NSYNC, but do you sync? By the way, I was a music teacher by trade, so if you hear a lot of music references, I can't help it. They just come naturally, and I'm sorry, okay? So if you're syncing, it may not be such a problem, or it may be a huge problem. It depends on how you're syncing, right? So the gradebook solution can be to have a different Google Classroom for every quarter. It can be to have a different Google Classroom for every semester, or it could be just use one. Now, I've seen some people just delete their grade book and start again in the new quarter, and I'm always like, oh, it just makes me a little anxious. But that's up to you, right? That's, everybody can do what fits best for them. I know that I had some teachers that did both, and once they got used to it, because you don't have to start the whole Google Classroom again. You have the ability to just make a copy of that Google Classroom, and it just easily does all the pieces, and you just pull the kids right back in. Okay, so the next one, inviting students. I personally think there's a lot of ways to do this and to streamline it. There are 4 ways to invite your students. So I'm going to show you all 4 of them. So the typical way is, I'm going to go back out to my stream, is to just have this code, right? We can do the code. Everybody's used to this code, right? And you just show it up on the board. Now, I've had people email it, right? We take the code, we email it to our kids, especially our older kids, and we tell them to get in. Now, none of you would ever have students say, oh, it didn't work for me. I didn't get the code, right? You didn't have kids say that. I didn't get in the classroom because I didn't get the code. I see a smile, so I know somebody's had that excuse pop up in their life, right? And I'm like, I call BS on that, because no, not every other kid can get it and you didn't. So homework to me is not the way to assign a Google Classroom. The way for me to assign a Google Classroom is, to me, I will walk your sweet little heart right through it, because I will make sure you're going to get into it. So that's the other one. I would put this up on the board. I'd actually probably even make it big enough so they could read it, right? Because that's not hard to read. But the other thing that you can do is, in here, I can copy the link invite. So I'm going to actually copy it right now. I'm going to put it in the chat. No one needs to click on it. I'm just going to paste it. But what I want you to see is, do you see the last 6 characters of it? The E5PCYTP, 7, not 6. It matches this exactly, right? So I could actually have my kids in a meeting, and I can have those little duffs click right on that, and they're automatically added to the classroom, just like that. So we don't have to type anything. We don't have to click anything. Well, we have to click something. We don't have to go to Google Classroom. they will automatically be added right into the classroom that way. To me, that's the easiest way to do it, right? So, but there's still one more. So here's the copy the link. There's the homework way. You can display it and do it in classroom. The other way is if you are one of those lucky people that has the sync turned on from your SIS, so your student information system, and they push your kids right in, well, hallelujah for you, because that's a great way to have it, right? That happens and it's great. But just an alert, some districts do it nightly and some districts only do it once. So you need to know, make sure you know which way. The benefit of that, especially in a middle school, high school situation, is as kids' classes are changing for that first week, they're automatically moving on their own and you don't have to do it. So that's just helpful. Now, I think that's a pretty simple component, but I always like to cover it. All right, so how can I improve that use of my stream versus classwork? And I think I actually cleaned mine up. Here's what I like to say. Classwork should be neat, okay? Excuse me, yeah. Classwork should be neat and streams should be neat. I am from the North Country, I already said that. We like our streams clean, right? We like no garbage in our water. So we're gonna keep the same concept for the stream when we're on our Google Classroom. So when I come out here and I look at my Google Classroom, you will see that the only thing you see are circles, right? Circles mean that those are things that I have posted directly to my stream. So now I'm going to make you all close your eyes for 30 seconds and I'm going to go change that to the nasty way that I hate. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the stream and now I have a dirty stream, okay? Now I've got announcements and assignments. These circles with an icon in them are assignments, and the assignments are filtering into my stream. I hate that. Let me say that one more time. Wrong answer. Hate it. Disguise it. Like, yuck. Get rid of it. Do not like it. And the real reason behind that is I already have a place for my classwork, right? I don't know how many of you are super particular. Let's just say that I'm a control freak when it comes to my classroom. Like my kids used to know when they walked in the door that their papers went into a certain place and that was the only place they wanted it. Google Classroom's the exact same way. I want your classwork here and I want the announcements here. So the way to make that change is I come to the gear. I come down into the gear. And here on classwork on the stream, I hide notifications. Then I save it. And what happens is it automatically cleans it up. This will, number one, help your special ed students because their classwork will be in one place and the announcements will be in another. It's going to keep them in two separate places. It's a much cleaner look. I like to think of my stream as me standing at the door, reading my students. It's a place to do announcements. I might have a discussion in there, you know, all of those kind of options about what would go into your classroom. All right, and this is a really nice picture. I think I did this again so you could see it. This is a good stream. See how it's like announcement, circle, circle, circle. And this teacher in the green, by the way, is she teaches 11th grade English. So just so you know, she did 11th grade English. She was my topic person, my bad topic lister, right? Okay, so this is my 3rd grade teacher who was putting assignments out on the stream, right? So they both got a little bit of good and evil going on at the same time. So keeping these neat, all right, is, I think, super important. And here, just for fun, is a little video on how to remove classwork from the stream in case you get to next year and you're like, I don't know how she did that. Do students get a notification when an email is posted? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They will still get a notification that's something in there. So let's talk about that, by the way. For all of you, anybody using the upcoming box? Okay. Let me introduce you to your new best friend, my friends. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on view all. And here is automatically takes me to where I need to be. It's going to see, here's everything that I have to do in this classroom, right? I've got 32 assignments with no due dates. Can you get to this another way? You absolutely can. Do I want you to be efficient? I absolutely do. I want you to have as few clicks as possible. But what I absolutely love about this is that this brings me to my other Google Classrooms. I just saw Morgan's eyes go, woo! Yeah, right? So I can navigate very quickly through my classrooms, and I don't have to pop back out here, go back to my class cards to get to a new class. All right? So that, quite honestly, is like your best friend. This coming, not only is it your best friend, it should be your student's best friend. Because when they click on it and go into it, they'll have to do, late, or assigned. They have 3 different headings up here, but it's very reminiscent of yours. So it's going to help them as well. And they also can navigate through their Google Classrooms the same way. So once they get into their first class, they can then navigate through all their others pretty easily. Awesome. And we are really booking here. So let's talk about naming conventions. So Kevin is going to, if Kevin was involved, Kevin's an admin. So if he was like most of my other admins, they were in every Google Classroom in their building. And sometimes they probably wanted to strangle some of their teachers because their classes said math. And they were like, are you kidding me? Right? So math 7 is not helpful if there are 25 sections of math 7. So the best thing to do, and this is a good naming convention for an elementary with not a lot of options, right? So this building has 3 teachers per building, and 2 of them are together. A few things that I like for naming conventions, I believe that they should all start with your last name, then the subject, then the grade level. If you do that, every special ed teacher will love you forever. Okay? Because they are not usually in 1, they're in like 41. Naming conventions are huge. I like that they have a description. They actually have sections. This is going to come to play in a little bit. And then some rooms. So think about how you're going to name. So that's for classes. Also think about naming conventions on assignments. Monday is not a good naming convention. The Monday assignment. And why is that? Because we may have, 35 Mondays in a school year. So Monday, September 12, I don't even know if that's a real date, is a better one. Or 9.12 Monday is much better because number 1, the kids can come in and they can search for that, right? That's a super simple thing they can search for really easy. For high school teachers, the date and the assignment title is super important because then students can search to find what they're looking for. All right, so now, all done with the past. Those are all the things you can fix, right? So let's look at the present. So the first thing we're going to do is, because I want to think ahead, one of the things I like to do, I'm going to go back out to my class cards right out here, and I'm going to rename my classes that I have used in the past to 2021. Oh, I love this, Carrie. So Carrie, no, I'm sorry. Carrie asked a question. Is there a way to get email notifications from some but not all? I say that, Carrie, no. Is it a request that we've put in, that Google trainers have put into Google? Yes. We have added that to one of the classroom lists. And I will give you a little heads up. Do you see this little question mark down here in the bottom left-hand corner? Does everybody see that? So I'm going to click on it. And it says, what's new, report a feature, a report issue, or request a feature. So I'm not going to do a screenshot, right? But I am going to ask a question. So I am going to do this. I am going to copy Carrie's question, and I am going to paste it in here. just like that. And I'm going to send it. So when you have a question like that, I highly recommend you do that. If that's something you want to see, put that in there. There is a few new features that have come out in Google Classroom recently. They all come from educator request, right? Carrie, it's one of the things that I do believe they are working on right now. So while it isn't available right now, it is coming. So the first thing I want to do is I want to edit my names. So I'm going to edit this one. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to edit, and I'm going to put the year 2021 in front of my title. You're welcome. Why am I doing that? I'll explain it why in a minute. Any session that I taught this year, I'm going to do that in front of, okay? 2021. And why do I think that's important? You'll see in a minute. Just trust me, right? Okay, so I'm going to do two of them because this one isn't one I'm co-teaching. All right, so 2021 is very important. So I did it this way. I did it from the edit because I think it's faster, but you can also go into the gear. Remember when I was in the gear in the classroom and you could see that at the top, you can edit in there as well. So there are multiple ways to do that. Now, here's the next thing. So this is a question, it may actually come from to Carrie, like, are you a co-teacher? So this is the should I stay or should I go, right? Do I want to stay in this session or do I want to go in it? So for an example, when I come back out here into this class right here, when I click on it, I'm a co-teacher in this classroom. Do I want to stay or do I want to leave the classroom? When I leave the classroom, I will no longer have access to it. This is co-teachers, special educators usually want to leave the classrooms that you're not the lead teacher on at the end of the school year. It just kind of cleans things up, right? And that does really help. If you're the primary, you can't leave it. I mean, you may want to leave it, but you can't, right? So leaving, you go to the classroom cards, you hit the ellipses, and you leave the classroom. That just becomes more of a personal preference. But it also might be a situation where you're in as a consultant teacher and then the student leaves and you're no longer a consultant teacher in that classroom. You no longer need that information. You can actually leave that classroom without having the teacher have you leave. You can do it on your own. Transfer of ownership. Can you transfer a class? You sure can. So I'm going to go into this one right here. And when I come up in here, if I had two co-teachers in here, I'd be able to push. So right in here, there'd be another one listed. Next to it, I could transfer ownership over to another teacher. Why would that happen? Maybe you get told you're going to another section or you get asked to teach a different class and strange things happen, right? You get a new teacher, you're covering for the district for a couple weeks until somebody comes in, the new teacher comes in, you can just push them to classroom. And it's in these three dots right in here. What happens when you transfer? The new primary teacher owns the Google Classroom folder, all the materials in there, and all the turned in student work. So that's just good to know. Like if you transfer it, you can't get it back unless it's given back to you, right? It's one of those like, hey, not it, your turn. I don't want it anymore. Time for you to play. It's also good if you're a teacher who's going to retire. Okay, so my elder teachers, of which I am, right? In the days when I get ready to retire, because I'm not that far from retirement. When I go to retire, maybe I teach this kicker, Google Classroom, and one of my colleagues wanted, I can actually add them in as a co-teacher, and then I can transfer ownership to them, and then they have the whole thing. They get to keep it. So that's always something as well. All right, next one. So the biggest question is to delete or archive, but the real question is to archive to delete. You must archive to delete. So we're going to kind of go through this process. What is archiving? Archiving is the invisible filing cabinet around the corner. It's definitely stored in a separate area of Google Classroom. I'm going to show you where it goes. You no longer see the class in your cards, but your work, your classroom materials, and posts will be preserved. Students can still see their work, but not be able to update it. This is a really good fix for quarters and semesters. That's why I always say it's nice to kind of start with a new Google Classroom and archive the other one and push it out of the way. And I'll show you what it looks like. And then, but big one. This is huge. The Google Classroom Calendar remains in your calendar and student view. You have to go in and remove it. Okay? So if you've never done that, and I always have people that look at me and go, what? I don't get that, right? So if I come in here and this is my Google Calendar, and you'll see that I have this one right here. I'm going to actually archive this classroom. I can come in here and I can hide it from my list, but if I actually go all the way into it, I can delete it. Okay? So actually, if you archive a class, would you ever need to see the contents of it again? Like in your calendar. Let me put that another way. If you archive a class, would you want to see the contents of it again in your calendar? No. So you could actually delete the calendar right out of there. And I think that's a big thing that most people are confused about. So deleting just like it sounds. See you later. So we're going to go through this once. I'm going to take you back out to my class cards. We are going to look at this classroom right here, and I'm going to archive it. So it's called 2021 Bond Technology. I don't even know what its full title is. Remote Teaching Period 1. That's what it's called. Okay, and I'm going to archive it. So archive it. And it says, do you know it will be archived? It will be archived by all. It can't be modified. It will move. Class files were made. Yep, I got it. Archive it. Goodbye. It just disappeared from my cards, right? It's gone. So where is that magical place that it goes? So I go to the hamburger and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I have an archived class box and I'm going to click on it. And what you will see are many, many archived classes that I have in here. See them all? Lots of them. There's the one I just did. Could I delete it? I sure could. So this, once it's archived, I can come to this box and I can delete it. Now, all of you that are super cleaner happy people and like to throw everything out, like my husband, I haven't used this in 2 days. Let's throw it out. The man has 0 emails in his email box because he reads them and throws them out. He is a freak of nature, right? Do I have to keep this? Yes. No, I'm not gonna. Goodbye. It's gone. I'm like, okay, email it to me because I know we're gonna need it at some point, right? Because he can't be trusted with any file. It'll be in the garbage. If you are one of those, beware. And why do I say that? Because you can actually use archived material in a Google Classroom. So I'm going to come back out here. And I am going to go to this class right here, my 21-22 class. I'm going to come into my classwork. So there's this magic thing, and I think I may have jumped ahead a little bit, but you can come up here into your assignments and you can come down to reuse post. And you will notice I have classes here, right? And I have lots of classes here. So this is the reason I tell you to put the 2021 name on your class. So you know which ones is an old one and which one's a new one. They used to say archived. I don't know why Google has pulled that naming off. They had it like in parentheses, so it was easy to tell. So that's why I have you do this year on there. Don't do old, okay? Unless you want it to be older than dirt. I mean, you can put that on there if you want. Because I have some in here that I'm definitely going to delete out. There's things I haven't used. So let's say I open this classroom up. And now what I can do is I can go into this one and say, oh, I want to use this assignment. I want to create new copies of all attachments and I want to reuse it. What it's going to do, it's going to pull, it takes a little bit of time because it's got to go out into your archive. It's got to pull it back in. But let's just say, so like, here's an assignment, right? And it's not a great one, right? So my favorite thing from the year, I have my directions all right out. Here it is, the ins and outs. I can still change all of my levels in here because I'm getting a new attachment for it. And then I can push it out to my students just like this. I want to add a topic, right? A daily assignment. And Yep, I got that all done. I can do anything that I would normally do and I can push it out. So what I really like about that is it means, some of you probably did some kicker assignments in your Google Classrooms this year. I don't know about you, but I don't want to do work again, right? It's like going to the copier with that bad boy, pulling it out, everything's attached. I just have to be able to find it. If you're a high school teacher, and you have 4 sections of the same thing, you don't necessarily have to archive all of those if you don't want to keep them all, right? Maybe your district says you have to. I don't know. Some districts may say we want you to keep it for a year for grades. Listen, you got seniors, you don't have to archive a thing. See you later. Hasta la vista. Keep one copy. So just think about to where it goes. So we already showed you where it went, right? I've done all this, right? And you can tell the difference between your regular classes and your archive classes. I want to go out to my class cards. Here's my classes. There's my regular classes. Here's my archive. Do you see the lines on them, the difference between them? So that's how you know. Unfortunately, when you go to reuse a post, you don't necessarily see that, just so we know. All right, we've done all these. You can also, from a archived class, you can make a copy. You can also push a class back out. So if Morgan goes in and she archives her classroom at the end of the first quarter to start into the second quarter, and Becca, that's my kid, so I'm going to throw her under the bus. Becca comes in and is like, hey, Miss Galan, I didn't do all my work. Can I go back in? She can restore the classroom and allow the kid, or she could be mean and be like, no, Becca, you should have done your work when it was due because you're a bonehead. Your mother said I could say that, right? She's 24. She'd hate that I throw her under the bus, but she would have been that kid. So you can still do that, or you can go through and delete it. All right. So here's the real reason. Archiving rather than delete, right? You can reuse those assignments from an archived classroom. That is really kind of huge. And if you notice, you can go to the bottom of the classwork. Here's the create, reuse it. You find what you want, and you click one of those options to go through. All right, so let's go to the future now. All right, how are we doing? Everybody still pretty good? Have I blown anybody's mind at 8 o'clock in the morning? Awesome, all right. Prepping ahead. How are you going to use Google Classroom for your new school year, right? And I know some people are like, oh God, I never want to see it again in my whole life, right? Yeah, I really like it, Does your district have a policy? Are you required to have a Google Classroom? Some districts do have that. I know the district where I tech integrate, they never did in the past. They will this year. Everyone will have a Google Classroom, and it's for this reason, worst case scenario, just in case, right? Does having a Google Classroom mean I need to use it every day? That's it. That's a personal thing. I will tell you what, I have seen kindergartners navigate a Google Classroom with utmost ease, and I've seen seniors struggle. A lot of it has to do with the structure. Now, could be seniors struggle because they're seniors, they want to struggle, they like to play that game a little bit, right? So just think about it. If there was one thing that I think is like utmost important when you go back in your new school year, if you are going to use a Google Classroom, even if it's only once in a while, you're going to do it within the first week of school, and you're going to teach your students how to use it. Please make no assumptions that just because they used it last year, they have a clue what they're doing. Okay, I know that sounds really weird, but guarantee they won't do it the way you want them to do it. They're not going to click where you want. They're going to be like, I don't understand. Their brains go into mush during the summer, right? So just assume they don't know what they're doing and come in and teach them how to get to your Google Classroom and what your expectations are going to be in it. I think that's a wise decision. Harry Wong always says, if you want it, teach it. And I would go with that definitely with Google Classroom, really to keep them honest and true. So let's talk about a couple things that I might like to put in my Google Classroom. So these, by the way, are actual screenshots with links. I'm going to open them both. So this is a contact hour document. If you are totally into this, please rip it off from me and steal it. I am a Google trainer. I share. I don't care. If you want to take this and run with this, a contact document. Now, I had teachers build these for parents primarily, but there's nothing saying you wouldn't want one of these for a follow-up with your kids in a non-pandemic year, right? So what are the kind of things that I have in here? I call this one-stop shopping. It could be for parents, but it also could be for students, especially students with disabilities who get lost in a lot of things. I can have it all in one. If it's a go-to document that my kids know where stuff is, it makes things a lot easier. So what are some of the things I have in here? I have a Zoom meet that you could have in there. I have a schedule. This is great for elementary kids. What's going on? I have including specials. How many of you have to tell your parents it's Tuesday? We always have art on Tuesday, right? Or, you know, you're like, it's Tuesday. That's still art on Tuesday. Or if you're in a 6-day cycle like ACE, you have gym, right? Doesn't change for an entire year, right? You continue. There's no reason we can't get that stuff all in one place. You know what's great about this kind of document is that you can update it. And if parents have the link, they don't have to come back and keep asking you for it. It's all in one place. That's why I call it one-stop shopping, right? Like stop and shop here, simple, easy. If you're going to use a Google, if you're going to use any kind of online place, if you're going to have a meeting tool, what is it going to be, right? If you're going to use Google Meet, if you're going to use Zoom, if you're going to use WebEx, whatever that is, put it in there, right? And you can also put little directions. I'll also post it in the stream for easy access, right? Whatever it needs. You can have links for your classroom in here. What do you mean? I don't have to have 25 documents? No, you can keep it. I don't think there'll be an end to how long you can make this document. You could have a troubleshooting guide built right into this, right? Hey, your Chromebook doesn't work? Try restarting it. Fixes, by the way, tip of the day, fixes, Kevin is laughing, fixes 99% of all problems on a Chromebook. And if you have no like troubleshooting skills whatsoever on a Chromebook, restart them. You're welcome. Here's why. Chromebooks get a little wonky when they don't have the latest update. 2 updates run on a Google Chromebook at all time. The one you're using is in the front and the newest one is in the back. And as soon as you update them, they switch. And then this one starts to go get the newest update and this one becomes the one that's running. It's as easy as that. It's a restart. And trust me, if you call the techs, they're going to tell you to restart it. So just, you're going to be able to call them and say, hey, I already restarted it, right? Now what do I do? Usually that fixes the problem. Other things you can have in here, websites, special teachers can build links in here. That's what a lot of my elementary teachers did. They put them all in one document so their teachers, their parents could find them. And then what they did is they sent this link out and they said to the parents, don't download it. Continually use the link because we'll make updates right in here. And it made it much easier for kids and parents. Here's another one. So here's another one. This is a bonus for you today, my Google Classroom people. I put my Google Classroom tips training in here so you can have it, right? You can, yeah, look at, this is like a 2 for 2. So I know a lot of people, or someone said in there, they used an emoji in some of their descriptions or their topics to help things be easier to do. So this is just some nice quick things along with some resources down there for you to go with. This is like a twofer, a nice, easy thing to have. Here's a couple other documents. Now this comes out of that 3rd grade Google Classroom. So these are just PDFs, so they cannot be copied. I just wanted to give her credit, but they did a great job with a schedule. Now, most of you have this schedule, right? You already have one that you give to someone. Isn't that nice to put up so your parents can see where the kids are, right? This is like transparency. If it changes, you could, if it's a live link, you don't even have to worry about changing the link within your Google Classroom. It'll just update the Google Doc. Another great reason why I like that. This is one of those examples of one of the documents they made for their kids. They assumed they knew nothing, right? I was so proud of them. Like, they started to teach them how to use the camera within their slides, because their kids did not know how to take pictures of their own work. So they taught them how. Those are some simple things you can do. So I also thought I'd give you a little gift, right? What's better than one gift on a Monday? Two. So here's kind of a little something you can push through Google Classroom that might be a really fun way to use Google Classroom the first time. You can come in here. You are free to make a copy of this, by the way. So a lot of us do like these openers with our kids, right? We do kind of like a meet and greet. Well, what about your kids have been using technology for a whole year? Wouldn't it be great to get insight on what they can and can't do? Nothing like giving them a tech task and to figure out what they know right off the bat. So have them create a collage, right? Duplicate slide 2, make it your own. So you may need to teach your kids how to duplicate a slide, which is just a right click, duplicate the slide. Then they can make any changes. I gave you a couple examples, right? Here's a little bit about me. And you know, you can actually make this so the kids don't put their own pictures on it nor their name. And the kids have to guess who it is. That's always really fun. And here's another one, by the way. Onyx Quartz is not a real person. He's one of our cues. I have named all my cues, so I had to, he's a student in this classroom. So this is Onyx's his little slide. So that's a really fun thing to do. And you do get this huge insight to what your kids can and can't do. Because it's going to tell you, do they know how to change the background on their slides? Do they know how to change text? Do they know how to put text in? Do they know how to add a picture? Do they know how to look for a picture? All of those things, those are big skills that you may need. And that doesn't really matter if it's Word or Docs. I mean, excuse me, Docs or slides. The skills are pretty much the same. So that's really nice. I would personally make a template, or literally take mine, like make a copy, take mine, rename it, right? You can add it as an assignment and students can edit. So all the students are also, can they collaborate, as in all work on a document at the same time? That in itself can be a real fun time to see what they can and can't do. Some other things that you might want to create some templates, kind of like the one I just had there. If you use a daily journal with your kids, if you teach like grades 3, 4, 5, I hate to tell you, but you're going to be amazed at what your kids can't type, right? You're going to have kids that type like freaking pros, and you're going to have kids that type like this, penny pokers, straight. So maybe doing a daily journal every once in a while, switching it up. Sometimes they're writing them, sometimes they're typing them. You could create a template either within a Word document or a slide document so, that they're typing right into. So how to click in it and how to type in, right? So that would be important. Maybe free writes, maybe creative writes. Any of those things would be important to do with them. So now the last thing's really look through your Google Classrooms. Do you need them all, right? What do I want to keep? Keep the best of the best, right? Delete what you don't need. So you have to archive to delete. So delete what you don't need. And this is very big. See this? Google is now no longer unlimited storage. Depending on what level of Google your district is purchasing. So there's like the fundamentals, the teaching and learning, the education plus, which is like enterprise. there's a tiered amount of storage that the entire district has. So everything in your Google Drive is going to go into the combined amount of the Google amount. And I want to say it's pretty large, right? Let's just put it this way. It's pretty large, but I already started to have a little angina because I know what I have in my Google Drive for NARIC. It's like 250 gig worth of stuff. So, 125 little USB drives, I'm trying to clean it up, right? So I'm trying to delete what I don't need anymore. What can I get rid of? And really start to look at those Google Classrooms. Some of those things that you may have used pre-pandemic, you may need one. Some of those things you used in like 1920, you don't need anymore. You're in a different world now. I know that's hard to say, right? Maybe you taught 8 classes in the 2021. Maybe you want to look at what ones are and you only need 2 of them. Of the other 6, you're going to archive them and then delete them. So just keep it, clean it up, silly, is what I want to say. I think my biggest ones, my biggest tips, I do have this Google Classroom Tips document is right there, so you can just find it if you can't find it again. Work on your naming conventions, come up with a naming convention that works especially for your assignments. Keep that stream clean. I can't say that enough. And then my last one is continue to invite your guardians, even if you're not in a pandemic thing, because you know what? I think having a Google Classroom is a nice view on a classroom for parents as well. It really does keep them updated. And does that limit include what students have created on their drives? It does. It does. It's a district-wide amount as well, because I think what's going to happen, Carrie, is you're going to start to see districts like talk to the high flyers. I'm going to be one. I know at NARIC, they're going to come at me and be like, delete, girl, or we're going after you. Okay, right? I know that. For me, it's going to be things like my Screencastify videos that I need to get rid of the old ones that I'm not using or upload them to YouTube. I've got to do one of the others because video takes up a lot of memory. I'm just going to tell you right now that Google Docs and Slides and Sheets and all that, they don't take up a lot of memory. Okay, so they're not memory hogs. We just don't need a lot of extra duplicates of those things. Questions? Because I am done. So you will, I have a question slide. I'm just going to go to my last slide here, just so you know. Contact information is there for you. Those of you that have taken a class with me, you all know that by the end of today, you will get a link to today's video. You will also get a link to this slide deck, and your attendance will be marked as complete. Also in the email, it will state that if you don't fill out the Google form within 45 days, yada, 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 that does not apply to you. That is for my people who don't come to the session. That's only, you are all here. I have marked you complete. You are done. I will have you done. Your attendance will be done. This is what I consider to be it's all good. Yeah, I can absolutely do that again. Copying a class for a semester. Sure. Let me share you that. Let me share you that. Let me show you that. That might be a better way to do. And I am here for questions. So I'm going to come into I'm going to close this slide deck because we don't need this anymore. I'm going to move this out of the way. All right. So I'm going to come up into a class. And I'm going to come up into one of these, and if I want to copy one, for a quarter, right? I went to the wrong place. I need to be in my slides here. I can copy right here. So I'm going to work off my class cards and I'm going to copy class. And you'll notice it tells you copy of. So I would call this quarter 2, right? And I would do it like this. Take that out, put it in here, and just make a copy. I'd say quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. It's going to make a copy. It's going to pop around. So also know that these cards, does everybody know that you can move your cards? Right? Did you know that you can slide your cards around and put them in the order you want them in? Right? And I guess another tip I would say is use some colors. Gray's a little blah, right? color coordinate your periods so you have them like red, orange, yellow, green. I don't care what color they are, but you know, it is helpful if they're different colors. As humans, we see color really well. And most of us, not all of us, I have some colorblind friends in my family. My son and my husband are both colorblind. See things and recognize them by color, right? So you'll see this, you'll start to recognize my first period class is blue. And what it does is it speeds up your efficiency. So you'll just start to click on that because you'll know it's your first one. Other questions? I lost my chat. I just got to find you guys again. Copy class. Does it bring over your students? I want to find my class that I just copied. There it is right there. Right? I don't know if I had any kids in here. So no, it does not bring your kids over. So again, this is a case where you got your kids into a Google Classroom. And what I would do is I would do this. I'd show them that code, right? I'd just copy the link. I'd have them all in Google Classroom. No, I would not. Sorry. I'd have them all in a Zoom or WebEx or Meet. I'd copy that and I'd have them click on the link. Then they'd all be added into this new classroom. Then I would archive the old one. I'd keep them both open for a little bit of time. And then as soon as I got them all in one, I'd archive the old one. So Becca, my little demon, she wouldn't have a chance to do her work. It does not, right? You don't want to bring all your assignments. Well, if I copy a class, does it bring over all my assignments? You know, let me go look at that. So it brings them in draft format. Some people want them, some people don't. Everybody is a little different on that. Some people are like, yeah, I want them. Some people, and because I do have, like, if you don't want them, you can create cold. That's up to you. I am done, by the way, for anybody that feels like they have to, like, you're still hanging out here. All of you. That's awesome. Can I mass delete those? Morgan, I don't think so, but let's give it a try. No, you can't. Okay. Oh, wait, I did have a gift for you, and wait, it's not a gift. Those people that love to schedule and want to schedule across multiple classes, your time has come. It will be here in the fall. Yeah, like, right? I give a little gifts now and then, right? Right? That's a nice one. So it's coming. So that's really nice to know, because I think for those of us, okay, I make it sound like I ever did that. I think people that can schedule out a whole weekend ahead are a little perfect. I would not say crazy in any way. I never had that capacity, right? But to be able to schedule across multiple classrooms is going to be a huge thing. So especially if you're a high school teacher, right, doing that. Can students from last year still have access to work? They can't update it. You know, Mary, that brings up a good point. If you're worried about kids cheating, you may want to delete the class, right? So that is definitely an issue. Can you, let me try this. I want to go look at something really quickly. I'm going into an archived classroom. As soon as I get there, I'm going to come back down in here into archived classes. And I want to go into this one. I think I have kids in here, people in here. I got to find a class that I actually have people in. I do a lot of these as training demos, so I have to find one that has somebody stuck in here. Yeah, I can do this one. I think I stripped all my kids out of there. People. I think it strips your kids out when you come over. But they still have their documents. If you delete it, those things will go. There's no saying that kids won't still have that information, right? Because if a student has their own copy of their own work, they will still have it. This is an originality report is not going to help all that much. Thank you, everyone.
I have a question.
Sure.
I've been trying to master having the notification emails that are sent to Outlook all filter into a specific folder. And I Googled it. I thought I did it. I used the footer that the Google Classroom emails includes to try to have any email with that in it go into a particular folder. Can't seem to make it work. Has anyone made that work?
Well, Carrie, I feel the pain because it's Outlook, right? The pain of Outlook in some ways. So writing a rule, if you write a rule and it has the words Google Classroom in that, will that work?
Well, I used the footer because Google Classroom can appear in any email, but the actual Google Classroom, blah 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 at the bottom of the email is what I was trying to use in the rule.
I'm opening up my Outlook to see if I know to force it into Carrie, you work for CRB, don't you? I was gonna say I can't open my Outlook. I guess I can't have two things like that. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say if you write the rule and you put that email in, if you get the footer, but if you use that when you filter the email, basically write the rule that pushes it that way. Did you make a filter or a rule, Carrie? Let's see.
I've tried both.
Oh, you tried both. I would say that I wish I could make it easier. There's probably no way to make it easier. Okay. I will look into that and see. I know it works it works in mail, but of course we don't have mail, so. All right, if you delete an assignment in the Google Drive, will they still have a copy? So they will have their copy if they made a copy. So, and some of them will. Some of them I think are getting rich off selling things. Some of them will, not all of them are that tech savvy, right? If they've made their own copy, yes. If they've had a copy sent to them, yeah, those are just some things we're never going to get rid of. But quite honestly, it's not much different than them keeping their paper copy from last year, right? It's the same. Trust me, I can guarantee you that my son and my daughter shared some notes from high school and they graduated 3 years apart. And I almost want to say, don't take this the wrong way, that onus almost goes to the teacher because they were using, it was paper handouts then. And they were the same paper handouts. So my kids were just savvy enough. They were like, hey, you still got your notes? And my son was like, oh, yeah, sure. I was like, are you kidding me? I don't want to hear this. Right? Anything else? Anybody got any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I hope to see everybody next week. I'm going to stop. Because if you like this